try to pick some clip that could probably guide and help in addressing these questions. Now, I know that still you could have some other questions, but even if I ask you to give us some other questions, these are some of the things that ran in my mind. Number one, is there anything you could have learned today from this presentation? You know, it's very important. You can't just forego sleep for 1 full hour and there is nothing you're taking home. Number two, is there anything that you think can supplement? Or is there anything that you think does not go the way it should be in this clip that we have watched and what we are trying to learn? And probably, are there any clarifications that you think you may need? We carry on these same questions to the next session. We have the inclusive verb issues to decide whether it is true or to agree that it's true that I can use theory, theoretical framework and conceptual framework interchangeably, to mean I say that when I talk about a conceptual framework, I am still talking about a theoretical framework. And so that is concern number one that I think we carry to the next session. Does it mean, and could I be correct when I say the conceptual framework and the theoretical framework can be used interchangeably? Okay, that's one of the things that I think I have two students here who have given me the direct messages, and they are saying, is it true that I can call a conceptual framework a theoretical framework? Okay. And maybe for some of us who have been in this forum for some time, I think Professor Joseph Tai handled this some time back, and I don't want to ambush him at this time to start talking about those things. I just want to think that we carry on with this discussion to the next session. Maybe I would want to, in the remaining 3 minutes, open this, and if you have a burning question or anything you want to share with us, you can now. One of the questions that has just come straight from the audience, and if you also have 1 or 2 questions, we have 2 minutes for you to do that. Okay. Of course, again, I want to be sure that we are not sleeping. I know these difficult hours of the day, and can easily sleep. So we have 3 questions that we are carrying forward to the next session. 1, what is theory and what is theoretical framework? What is theory? What is theoretical framework? What is conceptual framework? Okay, 2, can I do research? Can't I do research and develop my own theory other than reviewing all the theories? Somebody says, why do I become a slave of theory? And many others. So those are some of the things we want to carry on with to the next session. We simply have few seconds to go. And again, I want to take this remaining few minutes to thank you for your time this morning and being part of the discussion this morning. Of course, I understand the area we are handling right now sounds very abstract. We started with philosophy and it was really a tug of war, but we moved the journey and somehow by the time we finished the 3 weeks, we reached somewhere and most people really appreciate what the presenters did, and we are grateful. This morning, since last week, again, we are yet coming up with another abstract stuff, theory, theoretical framework, conceptual frameworks, what they are, what they do, why. So, I mean, these things which seem and appear abstract, but I'm sure along the way we have experts here and they'll be able to unpack a number of these things and we'll be able to learn. Allow me now appreciate all the professors have already Michael, we have Professor James Kagari, we have doctors, we have Dr. Goretti with us, we have Dr. Walugembe Ahmad with us, and the rest who I may not have seen here, you are all very much welcome and we appreciate your effort. Thank you and thank you very much. Maybe quickly before I hand over, there's somebody who's saying, okay, there's somebody who's saying university has a guideline for research study, others use theoretical and conceptual framework at the same time. Do you agree or disagree? Well, I know this question is for all of us. Some people are now very silent, thinking that the question is mine. Yes.
On the issue of theoretical framework versus conceptual framework, two things for me that I picked this morning. As a guide, of course, this also depends on particular maybe where you are doing your study from, but from the video, clarity came on two things. One, if you have one theory, then you are talking about theoretical framework. If your study is quantitative, then you're also talking about theoretical framework. Possibly for us students and with the advice of seniors, we can always lean on these 2 points to always justify when we are asked around those 2 things, but maybe we'll talk about this next time again. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Thank you very much. And then even as we are going to next week, I would also want to ask you to think about the theoretical model. Bernard, are we together?
Ask who?
We want to talk about the theoretical model as well. I am seeing a direct question here talking about theoretical model.
Okay.
Yes, and that will be for next time. Our time is really spent, and I want to also recognize that we have Professor Laura Orovia in the house. although she has not put there the title, but we know. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. We missed you last week, but we were informed of what had happened, and we are grateful that you're back strong and ready to move the journey with us. Thank you very much. At this very moment, allow me now hand over to Professor Michael Koche. Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph, for ably helping us this morning, critically dealing with aspects of conceptual and theoretical frameworks. I think that is the mood of this forum these weeks, dealing with issues of theories and theoretical and conceptual models. So I think I want to begin by really appreciating all of us. It's not easy to wake up very early in the morning. I want to thank everyone in the morning call for being able to put aside the sleep and attend this session. This is a session me as a person I've been looking up to, and we have very able presenters, our own professors, Professor Laura, all of you know, and then Professor Julius. So again, we shall be continuing the same series. And I want to begin by acknowledging all the students from within Uganda, within East African region, within the African region and other continents who have been able to log in this morning. I don't know. I know that the graduation has been was taking place in Makerere, and I'm sure that Sylvia, I saw from our status, graduated, and I really must congratulate her. I don't know that Dr. Sylvia is in the house. I also want to begin by acknowledging our own Professor Joseph Ntai. Professor, we thank you so much for this platform, and they always guiding us, mentoring us, and making sure that we continue growing intellectually. People are graduating, people are growing. I also want to appreciate Professor Laura Robia, Professor Julius Kikoma, Professor James Kagari, Dr. Gideon Kruzinza, Dr. Goreti Shene, our very own Dr. Ahmad Walgembe. I don't know whether we have omitted any other senior colleagues, but senior colleagues, I really appreciate, we appreciate your contribution. One person was talking to me and he could not believe that so many senior colleagues are awake at this time. Actually, one person was telling me that for him, he finished these things, so he can't keep on waking up very early. But we thank you so much for supporting the students, and most of the students I've talked to, I've always talked so highly about most of the comments you give. Sometimes it's one-line comment, but it really makes them to grow. Now, like I said, I really not want us to take long. This is a conversation we started last week, and really we want to benefit from the wealth of knowledge and experience of Professor Julius Kikoma and Professor Laura Robia. And when you have such an opportunity of having very highly knowledgeable people take you through some of the critical concepts. And also what is very amazing is that these very concepts keep on disturbing the students, keep on disturbing us. It's a source of contention, a source of sometimes disagreement. But when we have them demystified, I think it helps us to grow. So the two professors will be leading us through the discussion, and the outline of the presentation, the block contents. Of course, unit 1 was conceptual and theorizing framing, conceptual and theoretical framing in dissertation research. And then the other one is integrating theories in dissertation and papers for publications. And then connecting theory and method in a dissertation study, and then software methods. So I think since this is a co-presentation, let me invite Professor Julius and then Professor Laura. I don't know in which order they will be able to manage, but I think it's better they can manage the discussion, how they want to take us through these concepts. Together, I already see they're in the house. We really appreciate you. And we believe that this morning will be, again, another unique morning, because every time you have spoken, you have really helped us to go into higher horizons in knowledge. So, Professor Julius and Professor Laura, I hand over the microphone to you. I know there have been many other questions in the previous session, but I don't want to, I want to bring you on board. I know some of those questions actually will get answered even as you deal with them. Thank you, Prof. Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Michael Okoche, and good morning, all the colleagues and the PhD fellows on the platform. I thank you for, giving me and my colleague the opportunity to continue having the conversations we started last week on this question of theory and methodology in research generally, even though, as I mentioned last time, my motivation to really do that connection comes to me from my own experience into qualitative research practice. But that is not to suggest that what we are doing or the lineup of the issues we wanted to speak about on this topic are of no relevance for someone who is predominantly undertaking a quantitative study. It is quite the opposite, that if anything, actually, even the quantitatively oriented person will benefit, in fact, so much in terms of learning, but even more profoundly in terms of unlearning some of what we have come to take for granted. The way we shall be doing this is that I will just, make some general remarks, especially just reminding us what we did last time, and then move into what we needed to do today. And then my colleague, Professor Roll, and I think she's on the call already, will take us more into the issues that relate to the second aspect of the series of conversations around this topic. So as I was mentioning, that even though it would apparently be a motivated topic that comes from qualitative researchers or people who are engaging in some kind of interpretive paradigm, I mentioned that it is the case that even those who are quantitatively oriented in their work predominantly, will even find it much more useful to pay more attention than the other ones. Why? Because I think that when you undertake a PhD, and this comes from what we discussed a bit at the beginning last time, where we said that, there are always struggles, and I think I joined very late when the earlier aspect of this platform was concluding, but I also understood that everyone was, agreeing that questions of theory always, falls into abstract thinking. But again, that is the nature of doctoral work. The nature of doctoral work is that you are going to move beyond what you have been always accustomed to, what you have taken, what you have come to take for granted, especially about theories. And last time I made mention that doctoral committees, or even people who examine doctoral theses, there are always observations and remarks and comments to the effect that PhD students do not really find it easy to articulate theories and the theoretical foundations of their work. And some even actually make, say that once they are home and dry with their own discipline-specific theories, which in our conversation last week, we saw that those are simply, they are at the third level of appreciating the levels of theory. But there are other levels of theory that are necessary, and we went through that last time. So the complaint from the advisors or even the examiners is that there's not sufficient articulation that helps the examiner to be able to feel confident that the student is really grounded in this wide range of theoretical issues that form the foundations of their work. But sometimes that is also complicated by the comfort that the students might have in just understanding the theories that are specific to their content area. And especially for those in the applied disciplines like management, business, might even hesitate to suggest that, they are, after all, those abstract things have no place in practice. So why do we need to go too far into those abstract things? And so on. However, once you register, or once someone undertakes a PhD, which is philosophical doctorate, you then can't run away from the fact that you are not just in undertaking research for PhD, you are not going to just be a technician who possesses skills and knowledge about how to conduct research, just techniques of research, engage into just some, quick fix techniques of research. And no, when you're a PhD student, a doctoral student, you really have to engage in some form of philosophy. Otherwise, why call it a PhD anyway? And so that in itself suggests that you can't run away from being clear and articulate about the theoretical or those philosophical foundations of your work. And so as we go into the broader ranges of theory in terms of the levels, micro, macro, and meso, we really are engaging in some kind of philosophizing as well. And as we philosophize, of course, it means that we are now engaging into some some unlearning of what we have come to know as the truth, or the one that we have been comfortable, especially the ones that relate to specific content or discipline, specific theories. So we begin to realize that we have to challenge what we have known as truth. And that undertaking a doctorate, a PhD, is not just a reflection of pre-existing truth, but it is an act of bringing truth into being. In other words, you are actually engaging in learning and relearning and unlearning in a very transformational way about the things that really help you understand issues about the topic of your work. So to the point that the framework of thinking about the topic really sort of you get transformed through that process of engaging into some kind of theorizing about the topic, and you start even thinking differently from even what has been formally accepted in the way you had understood the topic and the issues around it. So and as we go into those things, as we mentioned, just allow me to share with you a screen just to make that point more concretely by using another metaphor. I like to use metaphors because I think that helps, but I normally use them picking some work that articulates, the issues that I want to make. Now, I want to share with you one slide on my presentation that I did not, but which I think would speak to this issue, that theoretical framework, in the way we are saying you should understand it and appreciate the role, which also will help you connect with the theoretical, the methodological issues, the right methodological issues in your research. The best way to see that will be from a diagram I'm going to show you, which is from a book that is written for business students. It uses the concept of a research onion. I hope I can just share that. I've used this to other groups I've kind of been discussing with on these different platforms, PhDs or people who want to do PhDs. So those who want to do PhDs and have been in other platforms may find this familiar, but nevertheless it still makes the point. Let me just share the screen in a moment. Okay, I think this is the one. Yeah. So you can see that that I hope you can see. Michael, you are the sounding board for me. Do you see? I've shared on the screen.
Prof, we can see.
Okay, that's quite good. So research on your diagram. It's been, the author there, so and others. It's 2009. I must say, I think the new books that do the same thing, which have even clear pictures. But what I want to is just when we undertake, and this is important. It's like an onion of research, like the processes involved in research are like the layers of an onion. And you can see the layers can be as the the deeper levels, the first layer being the
yes, presentation more so that all of us clearly.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Okay. So what we're simply saying is that in order to appreciate what to pay much attention, this question of connecting is the fact that when we are taking through some of these introduction to research courses and sometimes also the real practice, we spend more on, layers of research in this onion, layers that are more easy to comprehend are these later layers. See, there's layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 5, layer 6. Now, layer 6 is the techniques. So when we talk about methodology, we quickly get to the about how we know the world, about how we, what we come to take as warranted knowledge, questions of knowledge. And they represent questions about the best way to approach the research, which are methodology and so on. And they are what helps you to understand the question of doctorateness in a PhD. And once you are not able to appreciate those lower level, really how some of the issues that need to be brought out to indicate how your work contributes to knowledge will actually be brought out. We end up then being very, very just mechanical and superficial in what we carry or we bring out as the contributions or what this study adds to already what is known. Many times because we've not spent time to try and get the foundations of the knowledge that we are trying to create. So that research onion metaphor is a good one to help us appreciate these challenges that we always actually struggle with in research. And so when we discussed last time, I actually made mention that the struggles are at that level of thinking about theoretical framework, and because it is moving from the concrete to the abstract, it is a challenge and it takes time to be familiar with those levels of operation if you are a beginning scholar and a novice. And so and then that is also made worse by the fact that there are many different approaches people engage into knowing what they are doing. So there is even diversity in how people can theoretically frame their work, and so understanding those distinctions and issues are quite something. But nevertheless, it still indicates that students have to get that correct. If they don't, then obviously there are going to be struggles and challenges, and then the journey will be a bit longer. And as a result, we need to spend more time discussing and becoming more familiar, and leaving our comfort zones of just the content level theories, and discovering more a bit about broader and contextual level theories, which we mentioned last time, to help us, make sense of the wholeness of the phenomenon that we're trying to investigate. So last week, really, we touched base on just, those very important aspects of, getting into thinking a bit broadly about your topic and steeping it into a theoretical frame. And we went ahead and even distinguished between the issues of conceptual and theoretical framing. Again, at that stage, we also used a concept and a metaphor, which I also like to just re-echo again. We used the house metaphor or an architecture metaphor to suggest that, in thinking about a theoretical framework, you could think about it just like, a blueprint for a house that an architect uses when planning to construct a building. And that architecture's blueprint has two aspects. There is the aspect that indicates the exterior of the house that is going to be constructed, and then there is that blueprint which reflects the interior of the house, which means the different details and specifics that will be in the house. And we said that way you can be able to see that the theoretical framework is the exterior one. It's the overarching, it's the overarching plan or blueprint for your work. And then the conceptual framework is actually now the specifics, like the contents in the house, where will the window be, what the floor plan, and so on and so forth. So I had somewhere when I was getting on the platform where some people were asking about whether you can just have a conceptual framework or you can have both, or why do you get into all those kind of issues? But the point here is that one, you need to be clear what roles each play. Otherwise, if you just if you just have it in your understanding that it's an either-or thing, then you miss the broader point, which is what we are making here, that until you see that distinction from that broader point, that the theoretical framework is really the big picture of what the study is about. And then the conceptual framework is the specific issues that plan, house of a plan allows to have in a building. Because if you have the plan of and I mentioned the other time that if the plan of the house is a bungalow, then it dictates the kind of possible things that can be inside, the types of windows, the types of other elements of ingredients within a house, as different from if it's a storage building and so on. So once you are clear with that, then you can see that the conceptual framework will help you to really be able to identify the constructs, the variables that are feasible within a particular theoretical framework that you have chosen. So I thought that I could just remind us of those key issues that we discussed last week before we then can move to the next issues, which are to do with integrating theories when you have to work with one or more theories. How do you really put them to work in your dissertation or in your paper? And that is a conversation that my colleague Laura will actually be leading But nevertheless, we are doing it together here, and we will come in at any stage when Laura is done, and then we can have a broad question and answer. I think I want to stop it there and just find out, Laura, are you ready to go?
Yes, yeah, Prof.
Okay, so welcome aboard. Let me just use that. I know that we talked earlier and I know you were moving and traveling. Yeah, but this is the life that we lead with this as scholars. We are too mobile, but I'm glad that you made it and you are here. Please go ahead.
Okay.
I can stop sharing now.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope I can be heard.
At least I can hear you clearly.
We can. Just a moment. Can anyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I missed the earlier session, but as I was logging in, I had something to do with theoretical framework, conceptual framework, and so forth. Am I safe?
You are safe. We are all safe, I'm sure.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Professor Ntai for this platform to come and share. We are all here to learn and relearn, have our minds refreshed. Like I've always told members on the platform that much as we come here to share, please, you have a responsibility to read further. Do not overly rely on what is shared here. Make sure that you make time and read further. There is that dangerous spirit where students only come and whatever is shared here is what they run with alone. You see, these topics require a lot of time to put together, and sometimes some of the things are left out. So if you rely on this alone, that is dangerous. We just give you the highlights and then you go and, read more and enrich yourself. Okay, so just to continue from where my colleague has left, we are looking at integrating theories in a study, whether dissertation, manuscript, or whatever, but integrating theories in our study. This is an area that is really problematic. This is an area that is really problematic. We see, what can I say? During presentations, you see everything being put together mechanically. I think you've always heard me say, this was developed mechanically. Why do we get ourselves there? I hope at the end of this series, we'll be able to get out from the mechanical way of doing things and just letting things flow. Okay, common questions. How do I select the right theory from my study? How many theories should I have in my study? How should I integrate the theories chosen? I hope I don't contradict myself from the earlier presentation. Yeah, so these are some of the questions that keep bothering students. How do I select the right theory? How many should I use? How many should I have? Is one sufficient? How should I integrate the theories that I've chosen? These are always questions that keep running through minds of students and minds of supervisors, and also during the defenses, these questions do not miss. In the last presentations, we've always had people ask, why did you use all those theories? Why couldn't you have, couldn't the study have passed with only one theory? So today, this morning, we're going to look at some of the answers. Selecting the right theory. Before we go into integrating, we need to know how do we select the right theory? How many theories anyway, before we then integrate. Okay, so when we are talking about selecting the right theory or theoretical framework, we need to ask ourselves, what is the lens with which we are viewing the world? What is the lens? Is it from the pragmatic stance? Are you looking at interconnectedness of humans? What are you looking at? Remember, a theory tells us why people do things the way they do, why people behave the way they do. So you have your topic. Which lens are you adopting to conduct your study? For instance, if you are interested in looking at interconnectedness, then there the right theory will be the social network theory. Okay? Identify your beliefs. What are your beliefs? Are you coming from a psychology perspective, behavioral perspective? What are your beliefs? Again, you are able to come up with this if you have read extensively around your topic. Consider several theories that intersect with your epistemological values and broaden your way of thinking about the concepts of your study. You're looking at ethical behavior of internal auditors. What are the theories that can explain the way they do their things, the ethical behavior? What are the theories? So you need to first understand what is on ground, what is on table that you want to investigate. Understand that first. Then you go on to read. You know, there's this question. What is the difference between theoretical framework and literature review? I'll not go into details, but it is when you carry out extensive review of literature that you will be able to identify the various theories that have been used to explain that phenomenon that you want to investigate, that you want to study. Okay? So there are several theories. Now, once you are able to pick up these several theories, you sit down and interrogate them further, one by one, and see the one which best fits in your study, okay? As you do this, you develop a working knowledge of those theories, and then you are able to tell why each theory is important to you. The mistake many students make is this. Because I am studying ethical behavior, I'm using the ethical behavior theory, for lack of a better word, okay? Then someone also is looking at ethical behavior, then goes ahead and also says, because Laura used that theory, I think it's the one which should be. Are you getting me? Because Laura used that theory, I think it's the one that should be. That should not be our mentality. Dig deeper into those theories. Get what theories Laura used, what theory Joseph used, what theory Sylvia used on a particular phenomena. Then dig deeper and want. Conduct a brief literature review. Find support for your theories to avoid picking theories from here and there, mechanically. Why I also say mechanically, my colleague did mention this last week when he took us through the blueprint, when he was talking about the floor plan. The floor plan of a house provides for you, the key things. In any house, you expect to see a bed, the toilets, the doors, the kitchen. But at the end of the day, how these are organized in a given house depends on the design of the house. Different theories are going to, you are going to have common concepts in different theories, but then how you apply the theory in your study will depend on the structure that you want to build, okay? So that's why you find when students and say, from this theory, I picked this variable. From the other theory, I picked the other variable. From the resource-based view theory, I picked capabilities. From another theory, from social network theory, I picked social network theory. That is not how it's supposed to be. A theory is supposed to explain, why things happen the way they do. Fine, you have the social network theory. What does it say? Apply answers to how the theory connects to your problem, purpose, significance, and methodology. How does this theory, social network theory, how does it apply? How does it connect to your problem, purpose, significance, and methodology? As you review the literature, as you review the different articles that you are reading in regards to your topic, remember, pay attention to the connectivity. Now, when we talk about connectivity here, I want you to think about the electricity system, the wiring of electricity in the house. You have electricity, you have a house, okay? And you want power in all the rooms. You want electricity flowing in all the rooms. What do? You make sure there is, that connecting line, yeah? That connecting line that connects from the power source to all the rooms, so that once you turn on the rooms have power, they have electricity. The same thing with a theory. You have your power source, the theory itself, but then when you read through the theory, it should, give you that connectivity to the problem that you are investigating, to the purpose of the study, to the significance of the study, okay? So avoid this thing of saying, from this theory, I picked this variable. From the other theory, I picked this variable. No, tell us how the theory helps in understanding a particular relationship, okay? And that theory must help you to understand or investigate the research problem at hand. As you review these theories, make sure that you're able to get the answers, apply the answers to how the theory connects to your problem, purpose, and so forth, okay? Then, another mistake that students make is you rush to write. You rush to write. Do not rush to write without understanding what is on table, okay? So, you have identified the lens through which you want to investigate the research problem, okay? You have your own beliefs, you've identified the various theories, and now you have an idea of what you want to run with. So what you do then is select a theoretical framework that will provide a solid descriptive blueprint, a solid exterior design and interior design of your study. Exterior design, the theoretical framework. The interior design, now here you're looking at the conceptual framework, the interconnectedness, what you want to find where, okay? All these together should hold the structure that you want to build, okay? So in that way, you'll be able to select a theoretical framework that will best suit your study. Famous question. One theory versus multiple theories. Should I use one theory? Should I use two theories? Should I use 3 or 4 or what? Sometimes we get carried away as we, try to conceptualize our study. Fine, you've identified the problem that you want to investigate. Then you get carried away by, putting several boxes here and there, and then arrows moving from left, right, and center. After that, you then get theories and you force them there. Well, I just want to emphasize this. Before you even determine how many theories you should use in your study, ask yourself, what is your main objective? What is your main objective? My main objective is to explain the low adoption of integrated financial reporting. Why is it that people are not using this? It has come to save us. Why is it that people are not using this? That's my main objective. I want to go and find out. I want to go and explain, give an explanation for this. Why is it that people no longer, why is it that tourists are no longer going to, let's say, Kid Depot National Park? What is the problem? How would you, what are the probable explanations? What is your main objective? To explain a given phenomenon. So once you have that objective, you can now sit down and do a thorough review of literature. How have the past studies tried to handle this? What angle, what perspectives have they used to try and, investigate the issue at hand? Do you have support from existing literature? You are going to, you want to explain why the low adoption of integrated financial reporting, for example. What are the past studies saying? Which theories are they using? Do you have support for what you have at the back of your mind as probable explanations? Do you have any support in the existing literature? Remember, at the end of the day, whatever you put as your theoretical framework or conceptual framework must have support. Must have support. If you say you're going to use resource-based view theory, do you have support? Which studies have used it to explain the phenomena that you want to explain? Okay. Look at the factors that they have used to explain your particular, let's say, phenomena that you want to explain. From the review of literature, you'll be able to now gauge, have a rough idea of the exterior structure of your house. So the question you want to ask yourself is, if I used this theory, can my building, my house stand? If I use the resource-based view theory, can my house stand? By that I mean, can that particular theory I've singled out give a holistic explanation for the issue that I have identified, for the problem statement? And it ably explain. So if you find that it cannot give you that holistic explanation, that is when you now invoke another theory. But before you invoke that theory, you must have a good understanding of the first theory, okay? You must have a good understanding of your first theory. So this all comes to, what do you want to achieve at the end of the day? Remember, as you pick out these theories, each of them have their own assumptions, their own applications, and the support from past studies. These are things you should look at. Before you say, I'm going to use theory A, theory B, theory C, look at how they have been applied in the past. Look at the assumptions. Yeah. Look at the assumptions. We always forget to look at the assumptions, and then, you pick out the various theories and then run with the theories and say, from this theory, I picked this variable, from the other one, I picked this. As you're picking those variables, what are the assumptions? Do those assumptions hold in your particular study or investigation? Do they hold? And then your house stand, okay? Then also, can the electricity system work? Remember I said the electricity system is the interconnectedness. You have, that electrical wire going through the various rooms so that all the rooms have access to electricity. But here we're referring to the concepts, bringing together the concepts. Can they be connected in a logical and, a very realistic way that, when you now stand to present, a reader can see, how one is connected to the other, how one variable is connected to the other variable, connected to the other variable, and therefore, can one understand your conceptual framework, okay? Can one understand your conceptual framework? I am sure you have seen this when students come to present and then we say, that conceptualization is wrong. The conceptualization is wrong. Why is it wrong? Because the electricity system is just not working. Yeah, the electricity system is just not working. The wires from the source, the power source, must be connected to the different rooms for you to be able to access power. For you to be able to access power, the output there or the dependent variable is access to the power, okay? Now, look at your conceptual framework. Look at the theories you're using, to defend your conceptual framework. Do we see that clear, electricity system at work? Yeah. For you to be able to see that clear electricity system at work, remember, all the rooms must be connected. So all the theories you have decided to use must be connected in a way that the story that comes there, and no one can dispute it. You are saying, when there is, teamwork, amongst all the employees of the organization, amongst all the top management, then you'll see the organization performance flourish. Yeah, there is that connection. What is the story your conceptual framework is telling us? And we see that interconnectedness. Just by mere looking at that picture, can we see the theory connecting the concepts one to the other? And we see the electricity system working. So depending on these questions and more, you'll be able to gauge for yourself whether one theory is sufficient or you may have to use two or more. But again, I always advise students. I know if Peace to Chavez on that call, she's going to ask me, okay, if you say we can use multiple theories, is 5 theories okay? To answer that, I come back to the same thing. What is your main objective? What is your main objective? I don't want to say use 2 theories and stop there, use 3 theories and stop there. No. As you select your theories, remember, the theories must help you to explain the existing problem, must be linked to the purpose, must be linked to the significance of the study and methodology and so forth, okay? Again, do not be overly ambitious. By that, I mean, having too many theories. When you have excuse me, when you have too many theories, trying to bring out the interconnectedness becomes a challenge. And then at the end of the day, we see things being forced. We see a lot of, mechanical way of doing things. So just try to help to ensure parsimony in whatever you do, okay? So with that, I would now like us to look at, excuse me. Allow me just get a glass of water.
Yes, you need it. I hope it is not cold water.
Oh my God. Okay, where I am, I don't have access to warm water at this time. I should have packed some. Okay, now we go into integration of theories. When we talk about integration of theories, there are different approaches, okay? There are different approaches. I'm going to provide just a few. And along the way, students on the call, I want you to see where you are fitting, which approach you are using. Okay, the first one being, the first approach is where you have a single phenomena and two theoretical perspectives, yeah? What do I mean by this? Okay, here, just a minute. Here we are looking at sharing a common dependent variable, okay? Where you have, you're looking at two perspectives that speak to a single phenomenon, but from different angles, okay? So what is common here is the dependent variable, okay? The dependent variable is necessary to operationalize the two different variables, okay? The two different theories, rather, the two different theories. So one thing you have to note is that the two different theories don't need to be completely overlapping in the domains which they apply, but they need to overlap at the extent that they both predict something. They both predict the same thing. What is your explanatory variable? What is your criterion variable? So I just want to give an illustration from the works of Meyer, I think it's Meyer and Salomon 2006. These authors were investigating subcontracting projects. That was their dependent variable, subcontracting projects. And in their study, they integrated the elements of the resource-based view theory, yeah, focusing on the role of capabilities and resources in the subcontracting decision, okay? Then they also integrated this with the transaction cost economics, yeah? So in their study, they're trying to explain the decisions of subcontracting projects, okay? So they use the elements from the resource-based view theory and also the transaction cost theory. Now, remember, from the resource-based view theory, the focus was on using the role of capabilities and resources, okay, in explaining subcontracting decision. While the theory of cost economics, the transaction cost economics, focuses in their study. They used the transaction cost economics to focus on exchange hazards in explaining subcontracting decisions. Okay, so now according to them, this is what they came up with, that strong capabilities not only helped lower the cost of doing projects internally, but also helped lower the cost of subcontracting. Yeah, why? Because the technological capabilities helped the firm find, evaluate, monitor subcontractors more effectively than firms that lacked such capabilities. In other words, they tried combining the elements of these two theories to allow for a better understanding of subcontracting projects, which, using one particular theory in isolation, would not have brought out very well. I hope I didn't confuse you there. I'm just trying to illustrate how you can use one of the approach for integrating theories is where you have one phenomenon that you're trying to explain using two theoretical perspectives, okay? So you're trying to explain subcontracting decisions, yeah, in projects, using the resource-based view and the transaction cost economics. But remember, all these two are predicting or providing explanation for subcontracting projects, okay? But from different angles. The resource-based view brings in the angle of role of capabilities and resources. Then transaction cost economics brings in the angle of exchange hazards or transaction costs, okay? But at the end of the day, all these theories help to provide a better understanding of the issue at hand, being subcontracting decisions. So what is it in your study? What is it in your study? How are you doing it? Okay, so now we see that for you to use this particular approach, okay? For you to use this particular approach, first, the effort needs to respect the foundational assumptions of each theory. Remember, I said, each theory we use have their own assumptions, okay? So now, if you are going to integrate the properties or the elements of resource-based view theory with transaction cost economics, what are the assumptions? Have that at the back of your mind, because certain assumptions, make sure the assumptions are not contradicting, yeah? Resolve any disparities as they apply, okay? Resolve any disparities. So make sure you don't have contradicting assumptions. For example, in the behavioral theories, one theory may assume people to be rational, as in they first stop to think twice before they behave the way they do. Then another theory may say, no, people don't do that. Yeah. They are irrational. So how do you use both theories, irrational and not irrational, as a theory that assumes people are rational together with a theory that assumes people are irrational? How do you, merge these two? How do you integrate these two? So pay attention to the fundamental assumptions, okay? Then also secondly, how each theory will be utilized and why each theory alone cannot address the research question must be clearly articulated. It must be clearly articulated. You know why? So that you avoid this thing of saying, from this theory, I picked this. From the other one, I picked this. Tell us, why do you think using only resource-based view theory is not sufficient to provide a better understanding of the phenomenon that you wish to investigate? Tell us, okay? Yeah, I don't know what's happening to my screen. I'm trying to use a computer that is not mine. Now, all of a sudden, things have disappeared.
Can you be able to magnify it or something?
Okay, let me just continue. Speaking as I try to solve out this issue. Okay, so let us move to the next. Let us move to the next approach. The next approach being where you have one phenomenon using seemingly different theoretical perspective. It may sound like the previous one. Yeah, it may sound like the previous one, but now here the issue is you're bringing in angles which are different, okay? Put it in another way. The issue here is you have one phenomenon, okay, that brings in two different streams of research together. One phenomenon bringing two different research streams together by exposing how implicit, the other assumptions complement each other, okay? What do I mean by this anyway? In the previous illustration, I said you use one phenomenon and two theoretical perspectives, okay? Now here I am saying one phenomenon using different theoretical perspective. It sounds similar. This approach may be similar to the first one, in that it involves two theoretical perspectives on the same phenomenon that can be operationalized through the dependent variable. However, the difference lies in the integration. The difference lies in the way that integration is structured. Yeah, it lies in the way that integration is structured. For example, it begins with highlighting the evident differences between the two perspectives, but then goes ahead to show the possibility of connecting the two theories. I want to give an example. You'll forgive me, I don't know what is happening to my computer. Now it is black. But let me just continue. For example, let's say in a study you are trying to look at the influence of leaders or managers, okay? You want to explain the influence of managers or leaders. You're studying leaders. And one of the theories you choose to use is maybe the social network theory and also the leader-member exchange theory, okay? These are two different perspectives. The social network theory focuses on how the informal structure of relationship explains the influence of the individuals, the leaders, okay? But then when you look at the leader-member exchange theory, this one focuses on how members gain influence through the relationships, okay? But the emphasis is placed on the quality of the leaders, relationship with those people in the organization. So in terms of their differences, the social network research will explain influence from the structural position in the network, the structure, the structure. You're looking at the structure of the relationships and how this structure influences the leader at the top, how the leader behaves, okay? Then with the leader-member exchange, this one explains influence from the quality of a single relationship. So here what we are saying is, we have a phenomenon we're trying to explain, but using different theories, okay? Using two different theories, one theory looking at the structure of a relationship in the relationship between the people in the organization, then the leader-member exchange theory looking at the quality of a single relationship, yeah? So that is where you see the difference. While one is focusing on quality of a single relationship to influence the leader's, behavior, the other theory is looking at the structure of relationships in the organization. So how do you marry the two in order to explain the given phenomenon? That now is the struggle at hand. Now, for this kind of approach to work, okay? For this kind of approach to work, both theories need to speak to the same problem. What is the problem being investigated? Behavior of leaders. Ethical behavior of, the auditors. Adoption of a given system. Both theories must be speaking to the same phenomena, okay? Then it must also be possible to frame a relationship between the two. Frame a relationship between the two, okay? All right, the last approach I want to talk about is something that I see common is the streams of research sharing a similar explanatory account, okay? A stream of similar research, sharing a stream of research, sharing a similar explanatory account. What do I mean by this? You know, there are studies that come from that draw upon similar explanations, okay? Similar explanation in a given organization. By explanatory account, first of all, what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is the process or mechanism through which the antecedents explain a given outcome. What is that process? What is that process? When multiple streams of research share a common explanatory account, yeah? Share a common process or mechanism through which the antecedents are held to have effects on the outcome, then we see an integration taking place, okay? I want to give an example. Let's say, still looking at the social exchange theory. The social exchange theory explains, let's say, discretionary attitudes and behavior of members. And also, organization citizenship behavior does the same. It explains attitudes and behavior of members, okay? The primary explanatory account, okay? Here we are looking at distinction between, okay, how have these, you know, my computer has messed me up, so I'm just trying to put bits together, forgive me for that. The point I'm trying to put across here is that one of the approach we can use to integrate theories is where we get different researchers sharing a similar explanatory account. By this, I mean different researchers giving you the same explanations for why a phenomenon happens the way it does, yeah? How you move from one process to the other, how you move from the antecedents to the outcomes. And you see this with those studies that have used social exchange theory and organization citizenship behavior. When you look at these two theories, you see that the process, yeah, how one variable affects the other is the same, okay? You are explaining behavior of people. You are explaining behavior of employees, explaining behavior of auditors, of workers, or whatever the case may be, but you're trying to explain behavior. So in order, how do people behave? Why do people behave the way they do? The explanation provided by the social exchange theory is the same as that of organization citizenship behavior. I hope that is a good example I've given there. But the point I'm trying to put across is that, you know, when you have to put at the back of your mind when you're reading the different theories, that there are some theories which provide similar explanations. I want to also look at the theory of reason action with the theory, the technology acceptance model. When you look at these two theories, they tend to provide similar explanations for why people behave the way they do. And so, you know, that quantum of how things happen the way they do, how we reach to the outcomes seem to be the same. When we are looking at our various researches, we have the different theories that we've identified, but how do they explain the interconnectedness in the study? Friends, I want to end here by saying many phenomenal and research questions cannot be adequately addressed by drawing on a single theory, okay? By drawing on a single theory. Someone is going to quote me on that, but I pray you don't. So it is important, however, to determine how to integrate elements from multiple theories in a way that sheds light on one or more issues that no theory could address individually. I'll come again on that. I'm saying in passing that many phenomenal and research questions cannot be adequately addressed by drawing on a single theory, okay? So it is important, however, to determine how to integrate the elements from multiple theories in a way that sheds light on one or more issues that no theory could address individually or in isolation. So what is your project about? What is your project about? How can you integrate the different theories? Okay, how can you integrate the different theories? Your target is to provide explanation to the single phenomena, okay? Provide explanation to a single phenomena, but from different angles. The different angles then bring in the different theoretical perspectives. But as you do this, make sure that you take into consideration the assumptions therein, take into consideration the past studies, the findings of the past studies. How have they applied those theories, and how and what explanation or theoretical implications do they report in their studies? And so how does it fit in your work? At the end of the day, remember that theory helps you build a house. The theoretical framework helps you build a house. For that house to stand strong, the theories you're working with must be selected with caution. The theories you are working with must give you the proper makeup of the building. If you're going to use poor quality materials, the building will not stand. If you're going to force things, you know, when you're building a structure, if they say use this size of metals, this size of iron bars, and then you go and use a smaller size of iron bars, the poles of your house will not hold the house that you want to build. So be conscious. At the end of the day, you want to come up with theories, a theory or theories that provide a good stand for your study. Okay. Yeah, with that, I would like to apologize for the mishap, but allow me end here. Over to you. I'd like to pass over to my colleague Julius, you may come in and help from there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Laura. And I think I couldn't have chosen a better partner for this than yourself. You really put the real contents to my analogies I made last week. I know I mentioned that when you now move the study from just the broader theoretical frame, you need to also articulate the contents by way of identifying the conceptual frameworks, how the different concepts link together. And what you have been giving us this morning was some of the ways you can look into that house that you are building and the contents and how they connect each other. I liked very much the analogy of the electricity. I think it brought home that conception and the fact that whatever you actually include in the flow plan, it must make sense and it must be connected. There has to be a connection, which again fits within the broader framework, broader theoretical framework. So I think for me, that was very good, and we of course have highlighted a bit of the issues that were already asked, I think, at the beginning when someone was asking about how many theories and a bit of, do you need both of the theoretical frameworks and the conceptual frameworks? Some of what you have shared with us put some of those questions in perspective. And I could also encourage, as you indicated yourself, that what we are doing here, or what we normally do here, my own experience has been that these are insights that we share. They come from a place where we are also continuing to grapple with theorizing. It's always work in progress, and that they don't necessarily mean that it's the only version of reality that you need to actually hang on and run with. I would rather that you take them as insights that would help you to even dig deep and ask more questions. And like I will actually use the words of the one of the commencement speakers of the recent graduation ceremonies we have been having at Makerere University, when she said that you need to be at this level of engagement with theory, methodology, and these philosophical questions were mentioned here. You need to be critical, and you need to also stay curious. So while we come and give you these insights, we also want you to take them as beginning to even discover more. And some of them, they are presented in ways that they can point you to, where to go next. But some of them, some of the insights that we bring here are also supposed to provoke you and to unsettle you. Because sometimes we become so comfortable because we've read one paper, we've read one reference, and then we become comfortable that after all, those ideas seem to be very, very compelling. You just run with them. No, the key messages for me is that these should be used as beginning points for a rethinking, for being much more critical, but also continuing to stay curious. That will be very helpful. And I can think, let me just point you to some readings that could provoke you more about theory, method, and the role of theory, and the fact that doctorateness requires that you engage in these discussions, or at least you're aware of the requirement that you need to be alive to such discussions. So let me share the screen that has the references I've indicated in this, this presentation. I know in this era now, it is very easy to, it's actually very easy to trace some of these sources. So I will just, if you fail, of course, or if I can, but I'm not sure I know how to do the mechanics here, because I think there is a way I can even share some of those PDFs if I can here. But let me just screen share first of all to highlight what they are. Where is my presentation? I think it is this one. Yes. So if you can check on the screen, I think these two papers for me are the first two papers especially. One is they provoke debate around this question of you know, theory being a dictator of everything that we do. And these two debates are really typical of, you know, the postmodern criticism of the basis of thinking and knowledge that, you know, characterized the 90s. But they have continued to inspire now the current generation of criticisms that are steeped within what we now read around, you know, the colonization of knowledge. So before we really, you know, come live into the decolonization aspect of thinking about theory, we can get some foundations of, you know, this discussion from the initial postmodern criticisms that started this thinking about theory and, you know, expanding how we think about the role of theory. So those two papers there, the first one, which was published in the Harvard Education Review. It's actually a review, not reviewer. I hope I can change that. And then the other one is the two are actually in the Harvard Educational Review. They're all about the trappings and the issues around theory. It's very interesting discussions. Please find time and read them. And also, it will help you to see that somehow what we now find as discussions in much more contemporary debates now have some of the roots in some of the ideas that are in those two papers, including this feeling that too much theory is given too much space, and yet many of the theories that we are working with, they have a place of origin, and that place of origin is situated in a different context in terms of time, and also in terms of geography, and in terms of, you know, where we are now. And so why must we be compelled to really think with those tools when those tools marked a certain era, a certain moment, and so on? So those discussions, I think, are profound, because whatever theories you're working with, it is within a particular context. And so it is important to be a bit more critical and curious about the role it is playing in your study, and the role that you play in promoting ideas that probably may have very little connection with the context of your study. Then the third literature there, or the third article, is one which will actually speak to what Laura has been conversing, has been discussing this morning. And why I think it is important, it is one which helps you to see, it's actually a theoretical article in a sense. What I mean is that that publication is not based on someone carrying out field work to collect some views of what people think about an issue, and then having some findings, and then making some, you know, discussion on the theoretical issue and concluding. No, what this particular scholar is trying to do is to help us do what actually, see how you can actually do things that Roller today has given us when you are working with more than one perspective, and how you can then move beyond, what is known about those issues and come up with your own actually model. So that paper will be very useful in just how to imagine a dissertation, to imagine a study that puts together more than one theoretical one theory. In fact, in that paper, those authors present, actually it's one author, Leavitt, presents actually 3 classical theories on organizational learning. It's an article really articulating theoretical, a new theoretical framework for studying organizational learning. And in fact, what they are doing is that they try to identify some of the theories that have dominated work on organizational learning, and tried to put them together and see how, when they are used as in one study, they can then help them move the thinking about this topic further. So they identify 3 theories. I think, namely, there is a theory, of course, the most common one, the experiential learning theory. They also use the adaptive or the generative learning theory. They also write about the assimilation theory. So they help us see how you can work with 3 theories. So 3 theories which are steeped in fact different theoretical lenses, and yet they are being used to focus on a particular phenomenon in one study, which is what Laura has been talking about and using those examples she did. So they really did a good job. But one other thing that you will find from what they did was to identify the commonalities. What are the strengths, first of all, in using each of those, the similarities, and also their differences. So what is it that when using each of these theories, you can learn more about the topic, but also what are some of the limitations the topic has, and so on. That's very common. People do that. But what is also important is that they were able to really demonstrate that, first of all, when you critically analyze, by looking at the 3 levels of conception of theory, those 3 theories, the first 2 of them actually represent the cognitive school of thought in organizational learning. So they now utilize the more macro lens to put together the 2 theories and the ideas in the 2 theories. Then they also indicate that when you critically analyze what the simulation theory is about, it is actually steeped within what's called the behavioral school of thought, again, which is a more macro perspective to organizational learning. So already they are moving the thinking a bit higher, but also in that abstracting they are doing, they are helping us to see some of the assumptions and all these other issues that we mentioned here today, but also in the previous conversation. And in order to then try and work with them, they even decide to make a comparative analysis, of each of these theories. And they have a criteria, they use a criteria. Of course, they are familiarized with the area of study. So they know how to try and assess the value of each of these theories to their work by coming up with some kind of criteria in how to look at each of those theories when they are comparing them, when they are finding them useful in a single study. So they come up with a criteria where they actually ask, the first criteria is how these theories tackle the issue of the learning process itself. In other words, how learning occurs in each of the theories. Then the other criteria they use in terms of comparing these theories is looking at the learning target, who experiences the learning, and then the last criteria they use in comparing these theories for their purpose is to look at the learning context in each of these theories. In other words, the antecedents and conditions that promote learning in organizations and how each of these theories do that. So when they do that, they actually now propose a new model, which is much more holistic, a new theoretical framework or a new theoretical model, which is much more holistic, which is taking into account all those the elements of those three theories that we have just said. And I think that is very useful, because then they avoid the fragmentation, or they try to deal with this fragmented thinking that we see, and which is what Rolla was talking about earlier in terms of the complaints that colleagues make when they are commenting on the theoretical strengths of the dissertations. They read all the defenses that they are at when students are really mechanically putting theories together. What this particular article is doing is try to give us ways to be much more sophisticated and not mechanical. I want to stop there. I think we've eaten a bit too much into the time that we will need, but I think it was for good reason that we expound and really help to share ideas on how you can work with theories in your research, especially when you realize that the theories operate at more than one level, and that you are going to be faced with the question of how do you choose the right one, and how does that right one really, if there are more than one, how do they make the best attack on the issue that you are going to study. So thank you very much for giving us the time to share these ideas. I want to stop there and take us back to our moderator, Prof. Okoche. I hope you are online. I think back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Julius and Professor Laura. Members in this morning call, join me to appreciate our own professors for really able to dealing with these critical subjects. Professor Julia, thank you so much. Professor Laura, thank you so much. There has been a lot of insights, and one thing I forgot to advise most of us is that it's good to have a notebook and note down most of these insights, because they are critical insights. The insights are coming from experience as PhD students, experience as the supervisors, experience as examiners. And these are and you'll be surprised that as you'll be presenting your proposal, this could be some of the issues which they could ask you. So I want to really appreciate you for putting a lot of your time to do research, and also lending us your experience and also your knowledge. Before we move forward, allow me to acknowledge some of our colleagues, senior colleagues who logged in. In case I omit, I miss you out, maybe just an oversight. But as we're proceeding, we have Dr. Dennis Musingozi. You're welcome, and we appreciate you. Dr. Isaac Kayongo, we appreciate you. Dr. Edith Basalirwa, we appreciate you, and Dr. Vincent Obedgiu. So members in this morning call, I want again, I think a lot of insights have been shared. I also saw Dr. Ibrahim Msenze. I want this morning that in case you have any question, any comment, you could be able to make a comment, because a lot of insights, critical issues in terms of how to integrate theory into our research work. And it's really a critical thing. You will not be able to make it unless you do that. So you'll find people, yes, supervisor will always be taking you back. The examiners will be saying this thing is not a PhD. And sometimes it's very painful to see somebody turned away from maybe his proposal defense or his thesis is rejected on the basis that the theory is not sound, the integration of theory, and you can be taken back. So I think that's why I'm really excited about this session, having people who have really been in this journey for a long time, being able to share their insights. So I know some issues could have arisen, some questions, some comments, some additions. I would really welcome at this time. I know really a lot of learning has taken place. Yes, Michael, I give you a chance.
Thank you, Professor, and allow me to take this opportunity to thank Professors Orobia and Chikoma for presenting this morning and opening our minds about integrating theory into our work. First of all, I would want to share with you my mind. This is a critical part of research, and in any case, we could get recordings, recorded videos of presentations, such that throughout our studies, throughout our PhDs, we can revisit those recordings even during our free time, so that we can really keep on remembering what they said, because sometimes we know, but at a certain point you leave out something you think is not important, but at the end of the day, you discover that it was among the most important aspects. Secondly, I want to know from Professor Laura about how to use assumptions of a single theory in case I'm using only one theory to explain the connection between the independent variables and the dependent variables, the dependent variable. Do I use the assumptions, or I can bring the whole of that theory together in my creative way to make sure that there is connectivity? So I want to know whether I have to specifically use the different assumptions to explain different variables, the way they are connected to the dependent variable, or just look for a way of doing it in any creative way. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you, Michael. I don't know, Professor Laura, can you take it on, or there are other comments? We take all of them. Is there another comment? Okay, Professor Laura, you could respond to that, or any other senior colleague.
Thank you, moderator, and your namesake, Michael. Assumptions, what are assumptions? We first need to understand what assumptions are. Assumptions are, should I say, things that you should hold, things that called an explanation. You are going to explain why people are not using a particular technology. What are those things that you have to put into consideration? Those are the assumptions. So to answer Michael's question, he's asking, should I use assumptions in explaining my things, or do I use a creative way? The assumptions is just something that you have to put into consideration for your house to stand, okay? Let me work with the theory of reasoned action. The theory of reasoned action has been used to explain behavior. Why do people behave the way they do? And the main argument of that theory is that people behave the way they do because of their attitudes, because of the people around them. That is the subjective norm. Those two explain why they do things the way they do. But now, for one to, for this, should I say, explanation to work, the assumption that theory makes is that people are rational. Rational in the sense that before, let us work with a theory, with a particular behavior. For example, small business owners, we are telling them, make sure that you keep records, okay? Make sure that you keep records of all your financial transactions. So the behavior there is keeping records or record keeping, okay? And so the assumption is for someone to keep records, according to this theory, the person must be a rational person. Rational is in the sense that the person will first sit down and think and say, is it really necessary? You know, they first deliberate on their actions before they act. The assumption is, for this theory to work in that particular scenario, the assumption is the person, the individual you're investigating must be a rational person, in the sense that the person will first have to, think through his actions before he acts. So when you think through your actions first, it influences your attitude, it influences how you react to the people around you. And then these in turn will explain how you behave. So the theories just come in as, should I say, building blocks, okay? Otherwise, what you work with are the concepts and the relationship in that particular theory. So in a nutshell, or put it in a simple way, to Michael and others in that category, for you to employ and apply a theory, the theory has its main arguments. And those arguments can only work in a given environment, which we are referring to as the assumptions. I hope, Michael, you've got it. Yes, over to you, Okoche.
Okay, thank you so much.
Michael, can I add my voice to what Rola has just said?
Yes, please.
I just want to start with a statement that I've always made. If you're going to use theories, it's better that you actually get that particular book where the theory is documented, instead of picking theories from the journal articles where these theories have been applied or used. Now, when you get the book where the theory has been documented, and some of them are quite, well, small books around maybe 200, 300 pages. Some are as big as about 1,000 pages. So that theory, they will give you the background to that theory. They will give you the context of the theory. They will give you the assumptions for that theory to hold. So there's a lot of information that you need to have at the back of your mind before you start applying that particular theory. And that's why there are actually arguments among scholars. There are those who believe that in a single study, for example, you cannot have around 3 theories. You can't start mixing theories, or even 4 theories, or even 6 theories. Others will say, no, you can mix, right, these theories. So some of those arguments and debates possibly have not yet been settled among scholars. But I think the most important thing is for you to know that every theory has assumptions upon which it is developed. And that is very important. But number 2, there are 2 important aspects, especially when you're undertaking research, although we never think about these aspects. One is theory building, right? And then 2 is theory testing. Now, if you are testing a theory, then certainly you may end up using one particular theory. You want to test that theory and see whether it actually works in certain settings or contexts, right? So in which case, that's how your study is going to be conceptualized, including the model that you come up with. Will be testing that particular theory. However, if you want to build a theory, then, and you are starting from, let's say, the grounded theory perspective or another kind of realist or realism perspective, philosophical orientation. So you may start with a reality out there, right? And then you go through a process, right, of mind mapping, right? Or you use the perspectives of what Gordon Biddle and his colleague calls theorized storylines, right? Where you combine field insights with the theoretical insights that have been developed by scholars over time. So you'll be coming from that kind of perspective, right? So you go through the process of extracting reality, you go into mind mapping, and then you will develop some kind of conceptual model that you have. Now, at the end of the day, you may discover that the model that you come up with from that realist kind of modeling, probably that model draws from around 2 theories or 3 theories. So in that perspective, the argument here is that you're coming up with something that is sort of real, right? That may actually help you to build a theory, assuming that your model is tested in different settings and so forth, and most of the things seem to hold. You never know. Some of the scholars may start to refer to your work either as a model, then later on they refer to it as a theory, right? If you read the book called Great Minds in Management, you will see how some of the theories have actually evolved or developed over time. So in such situations, certainly that model that you have developed also is based on certain assumptions, because even some of the links may not work, especially when things change, right? So assumptions are everywhere, right? I think it's not a matter of saying that if I'm going to use one theory, what are the assumptions? If I'm going to use 2 theories, no. Everything that you are going to do, right, will be based on certain assumptions, although you don't state them, you yourself. But I think in some places, they will, especially when you come up with a conceptual model and theoretical model, they will ask you to interrogate that theoretical model or conceptual model, debate that conceptual model or theoretical model, and also provide assumptions under which that model will actually work. So that's what I wanted to add, Michael. But thanks very much for the other Michael who asked the question. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Prof. And I think these are really very great insights. And Prof, I also wanted to add that maybe somebody studying, in simple terms, somebody maybe studying about motivation can just use one theory of motivation because all the antecedents are there, both the IV and the DV. So it is basically easy for you to test whether that theory really works. And I think, and also like Prof, you said, when you look at these big books, they will give what the theory proposes, but also it will give the assumptions. And I think when you look at some of the articles in which deal with theories, the limitations, and it's some, they will say assumptions, which actually there's a mix between both the theoretical propositions, what the theories really bring across, trying to explain, and also the underlying assumption which must be held by a theory. So, but actually, like Prof has said, you have said, when you go through the process of reading a book, it gives both. So it gives you really to see whether that theory applies in your setting and also whether those assumptions. And of course, when now you come to the critiquing of the theory, those could be the issues you'll be able to problematize. Being able to see that, yes, I think these aspects could hold in my, the phenomena I'm researching, but these assumptions may not hold. So, and it really forms a basis on now getting another theory which could try to fulfill those conditions. But I think really the issues have really been properly addressed. I don't know, are there any comments? I must say that.
Michael,
yes.
Michael, just give me a minute so I add my voice to what is being said
yes.
about that profound question that your namesake asked. But I want us to, I want to just bring in a slight different insight to, the questioner. I think we have, and there must be a debate, although I don't think this debate is done very well, regarding the issue of, the sources and reference of our theoretical thinking. There has been this idea that, you must only work with, very recent work. And I think what that has done is that it has made especially newcomers into thinking about theory, or generally, students who are just beginners of theorizing, to think that you cannot go back and read the original author or the original propagator of the theory. We end up working with secondary, students of the original theorizer. And in the end, we find that we may definitely miss some of the important insights that will help us to understand, the context within which this theory was actually thought through, and what made sense, if it is behavior, if it is, work context, if it is, all these other ways that we, all these things that we're trying to study. And so you may miss to really appreciate some of the assumptions that you need to interrogate as you actually work with that theory. My own experience, I remember when I was doing a PhD, and this is quite some time ago, was that while initially my interest was just to really make sense of entrepreneurial behavior of women entrepreneurs and other counterparts, as I delved more into these theoretical, philosophical arguments around locating, this line of thinking and where does it come from and so on, I actually had to go back and read Scampter, his original works of the 1940s. I had to get those books and read them in order to actually see where he was coming from and where he ended when he, by the time he stopped or he died. And I found that his ideas of the same phenomenon were quite different by the time he was at the end of his life. While in the first parts of his thinking, for instance, about entrepreneurship. He was so much interested in, he was interested in the logic, the rational logics of economics. By the time he ended, he was saying that actually, if he was to do this theory again, he would start with the history of economic thinking. So historicizing the issues that he put together in his theory was profound by the end of his time. So if I hadn't done that, I would not have been able to appreciate that I needed to bring out some of the assumptions, the sociocultural assumptions surrounding understanding of entrepreneurial behavior. Constrain the students is the one where we insist that if someone is bringing up things that are references, bring up references that are more than 10 years, that's what I've seen in some of the guidelines that we have. They kind of create some kind of inertia in that way, because already some of the work that they are reading is maybe 5th or 6th generation of the origin. And they have not read maybe someone who has taken a deep to the students that I think if it's a classic, in which case it is the basis of the theoretical framework you're working with, you have to go to actually the original source and read the basic ideas, because that's where you get the original assumptions understood from the context in which they were derived. Thank you. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think those insights are very, very critical. And on my personal note, I really appreciate all the contributions. I think our time is gone. I don't know whether there is senior colleagues, if there's any other addition, I would welcome at this time as we prepare to close. This session will be closed by Dr. Ahmad Walugembe, but if there's any other comment, I would welcome those comments. The insights have been so many critical insights. Professor Joseph Mtai, thank you so much, our mentor. And we really appreciate your mentorship and guidance. Is there any? Yes, Robert?
Doctor, thank you so much. And I would like also to join my colleagues in thanking the professors who have given us a very serious guidance. I would like to follow the first Michael who made a comment, Doctor, that this is a very key and very important area because it actually gives us the foundation of our research. I wanted to request if we could get probably the presentation so that we could be able to keep following as Michael has already said. I'm just re-echoing and giving its importance so that sir, you could consider it and each one of us gets a copy. It helps us as we build these researches. Thank you very much, sir.
Chair, maybe just to respond to that, we certainly have recordings ever since we started up to where we are. And I know that Ahmed has about 60% of that, but I have 100%. Incidentally, the recordings are too heavy, so just come with your external hard disk. Give me a call. I'm sure you know my telephone number. In case you don't have it, is 0750 000 287. And then it will take about 1 hour or 45 minutes to transfer that data, and you'll have it. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I think It has been a very good morning of learning and gaining insights, refreshing, learning and relearning. So let me welcome Dr. Ahmad to make some few remarks. Then Dr. Goretti will close with a word of prayer. Dr. Ahmad, welcome, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Professor Michael Koche, for moderating the session. Allow me to appreciate our lead presenters, Professor Chikoma and Professor Rola Orobia, for the good work that they have done. For some of the colleagues that have really been keen since we started the discussions on theory and also the discussions of Professor Dr. Dennis Musinguzi some time back, you will note that there is a lot that we are dealing with the core issues of the PhD research. And I would like to appreciate the presenters for the sacrifice they have made over time to ensure that we have this done well. Professor Chikomo, we thank you specifically for this commitment. We're in week 2 of theory and research. We hopefully, according to the schedule, may have 4 to 5 weeks. So far there are 4, but I know we may go into the 5th week, given the nature of the flow of the discussions. And Professor, I'd like to confirm that people are really appreciating these different discussions. My reactions on the recordings, Professor has given you the answer. There was something about the recordings. These recordings are extremely heavy, so you need to come with your own either flash or hard disk and your external disk, and then you can get them from Professor. That's, I think, the best recommendation. But nevertheless, we also recommend to the students that it is very important that you don't just pick the recordings, because some pick them, you ask whether he has even listened to them after 6 months, he has never. It is really sometimes not an issue of getting the recordings, but using them. Then lastly, on the presentations, we normally share the presentations in the group. If you're not in the group, please inbox me or inbox whoever gave you the link so that we can add you in our group. These presentations are normally shared if there is any. So I would request Professor Chikoma and Professor Rolo automatically will share with me, or we'll share with Professor Michael Koche, and then we shall share in the group so that we can always have these records in place. Thank you very much. We appreciate all of you, especially the senior colleagues and also the senior students. I'm adding to the voice of Professor Michael to congratulate our platform members who graduated this year, specifically Fred and Sylvia. Thank you very much for being part of this from the beginning, and I think they really benefited from it. Thank you, and I wish you a nice Sunday. Back to you, Professor Michael.
Thank you, Dr. Goretti. You can close this session with the word of prayer.
Thank you, Professor Okoche. I would like to add my voice to thank the professors, Professor Laura and Professor Chikoma, for the good interaction this morning, and also all those who have been on this call this morning. Let us humble ourselves in prayer. Father Lord, we thank you for the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding shared this morning. We thank you for the gift of life, and we pray, Father Lord, that you continue providing for us and also enable us to continue sharing until when we meet again next Sunday. We pray that you grant us to continue understanding everything that we have shared this morning. In your name, I have prayed.
Amen.
Amen.
Have a blessed
Amen. Amen. Have a blessed Sunday, and thank you for the presentation made.
Amen. Have a blessed Sunday.
Thank you, everyone. I wish you a good day. Bye-bye.
Same